Welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Aunties podcast, where the group chat comes to life, conversations get oh so real, and nothing is off limits. If you are here for laughs, truth, and perspective, baby, you're home. I'm one of the hosts, Key, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Jay and Joe, and we're ready to talk about something that we don't normally talk about, right? So today we're talking about something that doesn't get debated enough. Black women, right? Black women don't just participate in the culture, baby. We drive it. We are the blueprint. From the way we talk, the way other people talk, to the way we dress, to the businesses that we build, the trends that go viral. We the blueprint.
Speak on it, girl.
And yet, we don't get the credit for it. We don't get centered in the credit. So, in alignment with today's discussion, I would like each of you to sing a lyric, sing it sis, that represents Black women's impact. Who wants to kick it off?
Who run the world, girls? Who run the world? Who are we? We are one.
I'm going to have to go next because she stole mine. So
I have two that came to mind. And I'll tell you why. Y'all know I'm not going to sing, but the first one is I'm Every Woman with Shaka Khan and Whitney Houston. And it shows the capacity of care and multi-dimensional power. It says, I'm every woman, it's all in me, and anything you want in them, baby, I'll do it naturally. Black women as the ones who naturally hold communities, families, churches, and movements together without needing to force it. So being able to sense your needs like rain unto the seeds, that's nurturing vision and emotional labor rolled into me. So every woman. The next one was formation. The line that most clearly shows Black women impact and formation are the ones where Beyonce ties Black womanhood to pride, beauty, power, and success. So she said, okay, ladies, let's get into formation. I just might be Black Bill Gates in the making, then talk about how Black women have always been the strategy, the backbone, and the blueprint. Everything that you talked about at the top of this episode. So those are my two songs.
I love it.
We would have been asked out because I had that one also, Shaka Khan. Had that written down here.
So since I always like to put you guys on the spot, apparently indirectly you put me on the spot because mine are taken, right? But I do have one. It's called For Women by Nina Simone. It's one of my favorite songs of Nina Simone. I'm just going to read one piece of it. It's called My Skin is Black, My Arms Are Long, My Hair is Woolly, My back is strong enough to take the pain inflicted again and again. What do they call me? My name is Aunt Sarah. So I didn't sing it because she goes, my skin is black. I love that song, right? But I chose that song on the fly, not only because it's one of my favorites, but also because in that she describes 4 different women. But either way, baby, we are the blueprint. So in talking about this topic, Black culture has heavily influences mainstream music, our fashion, slang, social media trends. People don't want to talk about that, but that is a fact. When we talk about aesthetic, a lot of times it's so interesting. It's very interesting how a lot of women, because we were conditioned to think this way, there was the white aesthetic. However, at the end of the day, Black women, when you think about today, they're getting a butt injection. I'm not talking about Black, I'm talking about other ethnicities. They're going under the knife to get bodies that look like ours. They're getting facial, what do they call it, balancing to have the aesthetics that we have, whether it's our nose, whether it's our lips. Getting those lip injection, baby. It's interesting how when we dress a certain way, it can be deemed as ghetto, but flip its head on the runway if an aspiring and or prominent white designer has urban. It's urban. It's not ghetto. It's the same thing, but now it's urban, right? It's edgy.
So that's funny you say that because I have a line here where I said, everything is ghetto until it becomes profitable. Boom. So you're saying all the things that speaks to that note that I put in here.
Absolutely. Until they can make money off of it. And then it's a problem, right?
Nope.
And I see this more and more now. We've seen it in the 70s. Obviously, we're all 70s babies. So we ground this where there was that sense of Black pride and Black power and wearing your afros. And that was in the 60s, actually. None of us are 60 babies, but that morphed into a trickle down into the 70s. Mm. And then something happened, I think, in the 80s where some of that went away, where there was less of the afro. It was more of the relaxers or perms. You assimilated because in order to get those jobs, you had to look a certain way. And in the 90s, it started to turn to a certain degree. Definitely in the 2000s, where a lot of us relinquished that. We ain't doing no relaxing anymore, right? We're over it.
We quit the creamy crack.
we quit that. And even in terms of what we're wearing and the fashion and just taking it all the way, when we were wearing braids and all of a sudden Bo Derek came out and it was, it was like a revelation. What are you talking about? What are we doing?
Right.
So pound for pound, we're the blueprint. I keep saying that because it's the truth. But I just don't believe a lot of us believe that. And especially some of as a collective, a lot of women, particularly those that have assimilated and you assimilate out of survival. But I think some way along the line, there's a group of people that have known this for years and they've trained their daughters up to know this. And then I think equally, there's a group of us individually that some way along the lines wanted to buck the system to, I guess, in more proximity to whiteness. Or maybe they just didn't believe it. They didn't love their Blackness enough to know that it is enough. And I'll just say that.
I have a famous line that ever since I've heard it, I always use that line to help me realize how people think. This is Paul Mooney as a comic. He did this in his comedy. And his famous line was, everybody want to be a nigga, but everybody don't want to be a nigga. So going back to what you said earlier about how everybody, white women, any other ethnicity, they want to emulate us, but they don't want to deal with what comes with it. So they'll go get the injections. They look like us. They try so hard to dress like us. They try so hard to act like us. But at the end of the day, they don't want to be us. They want to be us in their own skin, not ours, because society views Black women as being the last of the totem poles, so to speak.
But one thing about the totem pole, I agree with what you're saying. Thinking about the totem pole, apparently, even though they stay at the bottom, but the reality, what that means
is we at the top.
No. The bottom of the totem pole, I had to do some research on this recently. It's actually the piece where it's the most profound, the most intelligent, the most individuals that were actually the most successful within that culture. So even though we say the bottom of I don't like to use that phrase because the reality is it's the opposite of what we deem it to be. It's the bottom is actually the ones that are actually the most prominent, and then building on top of that, it gets less and less. But that's a whole nother thing.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I learned something new today.
Yeah. I think Black consumers have massive influence in beauty and in the beauty industry, particularly in healthcare and cosmetics. And we spend a lot of dollars there too. So just saying.
And to that point, so I had a note here that says Black women are trendsetters, but they're not always the wealth finishers. And it goes back to, you talked about in a previous episode about the 1% of the investment that is received by Black entrepreneurs in general. I want to just say Black women. And then I had a question like, why are Black women celebrated for influence but not protected economically? So the way I view that as, we have the things that we create or innovate is being demonstrated or shown by, whether it be by our own or by others who, what do you call that, appropriation. But then when it comes down to economics, we're not reaping those kinds of benefits because it's being taken on or taken away from us.
It's why does it happen? It's been happening since the beginning of time. Can it stop? It's only when we, I guess, as a collective, put forces and people into place where it can stop. I mentioned earlier Arlen Hamilton, she, in terms of the VC funding, right? So she's helping to do that. And it's not just her. There are other individuals. I forget
the guy from
Shea Moisture. Sorry? Which one?
The guy from Shark Tank, what's his name?
Damon John.
Yeah.
Damon John. But there's another individual, and his name is failing me now, but I know that he was the person that sold Shea Moisture. He is also has been an incubator for other Black businesses to grow. It's behind the scenes. The thing is, we don't talk about it enough. So we don't know things, right? Unless you're doing the research. And even me now, I'm upset at myself that I don't know his name. I would have been able to reference a Damon John. Like I would have been able to reference an Arlen Hamilton. That's shame on me for not knowing, even though I know the story that he's helped other Black businesses to grow, even behind the scenes. But some of us want to fly under the radar. But I think those stories need to be shared so that we know that it is happening, because I think that's when it gets more momentum and other people can say, oh, this person or that person, or even look, the people that may not have the means, maybe they can aspire if they know Again, it's power and representation.
You was getting ready to say something about Shea Moisture, and I don't know if it was in terms of, did they sell the brand?
I believe he sold the brand, but at the same time, and he got flack for that.
That's what I was going to say. So, like, people don't understand the economics, I think, sometimes. They come down on these Black entrepreneurs or these Black brands who sell their companies, and they don't understand the reason behind that. And if it's for economic gain, or if it's to start another whatever business, product, service, or whatever, or to either help others, to your point, we don't talk about it enough. So all we see in the news is, oh, this Black brand done sold. No, and Carol's daughter, the same thing. They sold her. They don't understand the economics behind that. And I'm not going to pretend I know all the mechanics either, because I don't know it, but I know there is a strategy behind it. It's not just a Black person selling out. And I think that's what it comes off with that.
I always thought a lot of the times that happened because they weren't getting the support or the funding to continue it on a larger scale.
Not all the time. So
no, I'm not saying all the time, but a lot of the times when a Black business some of it has to do with funding or not getting the support.
Sometimes, but then sometimes there's a strategy. So when we think about early startups, which Carol Daughters was a startup, Shea Moisture was a startup. So going back, when I mentioned Shea Moisture, he basically took some of the funds that he had and started an incubator to help other Black businesses. That's what I'm saying. It's not talked about enough. But when someone creates a business, and our white counterparts do this all the time, they'll create a startup and then they'll turn around and sell it. No, we ain't saying shit, right? We don't say nothing, but it's a strategy. It's called, a founder will build something, they build it up, they get the seed money, and they turn around and they exit. It is a strategy. It's a viable option. It's not because maybe they didn't do well. It's because that was the plan all along.
Right.
And then they turn around and build something else, and turn around and parse that money into something else. When I think about the Shea Moisture, to me, that's no different.
And sometimes there are still stakeholders in that business. Even when they just don't want to have all the overhead and all the op stuff. They want to be hands off that stuff.
So let's be clear. And let's flip it on its head. If it's sold, something's good. Ain't no bad business, right? You'd be an asshole if you bought a bad business, unless you knew that you can build it up more. So it's something there that someone can make money. No one's going to think about any business, right? Even as an employer relationship, if they're offering you $100,000, how much money are they making on you? Whatever you're producing is worth more than $100,000. That's why they're able to pay you that. Whatever you're functioning in that organization, if you're performing your job, it's worth more than that $100,000 because they're able to make money on you. So it's no different from owning a company. If someone's going to buy the company and they're offering you $1 million to buy it, they're thinking, oh, I could probably make about $3 to $5 million. So it's worth something. It's not always because it went out. And sometimes they do go out of business because they can't make
No, I'm not saying that they're going out of business, but by selling, why sell it to them for them to make more money off of your idea?
But that's what I'm getting at. So sometimes it's not a bad strategy in some cases. Maybe if I build something that's grand, and maybe I don't want to do it forever in perpetuity. And maybe I don't want to pass it down to my kids. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're incapable, or maybe they got their own things going on, right? I'm not always looking for the white counterpart. I'm looking for who's got the money, white, Indian, I don't care what ethnicity, because my strategy is the exit strategy. So I can take that money and do something else. I don't care. At that point, if I'm willing to sell, my price is my price. Whether they take it and build it up, great, or run the shit in the ground because they don't know the true formula, even though I'm supposed to give it to them, but they can't maintain it. Or sometimes a lot of these businesses, it's the face. It's the person's brand. So now they lose that, which is why, to Janine's point, they have to stay on to keep that momentum going. So still being the face of the brand, but behind the scenes is ran by a white person or white corporation. It's fine if I'm going to take my proceeds and I'm going to start something else. I see. So that's, again, by what Jay meant by a lot of times we don't understand the economics behind it. Yeah. It isn't always bad. If I could build something that's great and then say, okay, now it's time for me to sell because I want to pivot and do this.
I mean,
there's no harm in that.
Right? Think about Oprah. She started as she had her talk show, right? She went on to bigger and better things. It's the same thing in a business. They can be done with that. They can go on to bigger and better things, or they can do more, or they can help more people. Because now they have the capital, they have the access to do that.
That's a prime example of the Shea Moisture. He was able to literally put money into other Black-owned businesses to help build them up because he sold. And then he may not have had that, he kept it. So there's a lot of situations that are like that, but because we don't talk about them enough, there are people like yourself that make assumptions. Oh, well, why give it to them? Da, da, da. But they're still doing the Shea Moisture play, but we just don't know about it. And they're not talking about it. And that goes back to Jay's point of us not understanding the economics behind why these decisions are made. So I do think that there are situations sometimes where businesses go under or they're selling, and maybe it's just selfish reasons. But then I think more often than not, it's a power pivot at play. There ain't nobody really talking about it. And then that leads us to make the assumptions. Why give it to them? We don't know if they're taking those proceeds and building a whole community in Africa. We don't know if they're building a community in Memphis or building a community in Detroit or the south side of Chicago. No one's talking, but we are very big, especially in social media, taking us down by, see, they messed it up. They sold out without knowing what's really going on behind the scenes. I think it's more important for us to learn, take a stab. Like Jay says, she doesn't know all the economics behind. I don't know all the economics behind, but I bet you $5 and you don't know.
For nothing.
I'm learning. That's how I'm able to share these stories. Even though shame on me, I still don't know his name. But it's an accountability thing. I'm taking it upon myself when I see the buzz and hear it on social media. It's, again, 2, 3 things can be true. And I believe that it's incumbent upon us to just don't take a soundbite and just be like, well, that's what they did. No. Let me go figure out what really happened.
And that's what people do all the time. It's all about the soundbite. They don't know the whole story. They go press like and all these kinds of things, and they start yapping in the comments, and you don't even know the start to the story, or even how it ended for that matter. All you know is that little smidgen. So we've been heavy in this topic. We talked about the Black woman's impact on culture and style. So we've been talking about how it influenced. One of the clearest places you can actually see influence over time is appearance and style. And you talked about that, Kira, when you talked about how back then you were walking around with your afros and all these things, and then you went to 3 lessons and stuff. But so the things that I feel like we grew up being told to minimize is now being celebrated publicly. So let's talk about it. A lot of us grew up hearing certain hairstyles was not professional. People change their hair for interviews, jobs, or promotions, sometimes just to avoid being judged. Now we see those same styles in advertising, fashion, campaigns, corporate branding, and it makes me think what we were once told to tone down is now being highlighted and trendy. So I wonder, does wider acceptance feel validating, or does it sometimes feel complicated? Okay, I'll let you, because I was going to ask another question. She was pausing.
No, I don't know if it's considered validating. At the end of the day, our ideas are being stolen.
Say what you feel. Be honest.
Back to Kira's point, where anything we do is ghetto. But the minute a white person take over, it's urban. I don't think it's validating. It's more them stealing and making it their own and pushing us out. Another way to keep us now from making our own money or having our own set of wealth in our community. I agree with everything you guys said earlier about how there's strategies behind selling ideas. But there has to be a point where you have to be also strategic about who you're selling your ideas to. We should be looking for other individuals within our community to keep the money in our community. We shouldn't be selling it to the white person. I could understand the first initial idea, but then going however you want.
It's not the idea. No, it's a company. I just want to clarify that.
But it's still an idea that you turned into a company that you made money off of, so now you sold it. I can understand the first time that you sell it there to get the funding that you need to do other things. But then after that, there needs to be a strategy also to continue selling your ideas if you're going to be bringing up other Black businesses, but selling it to Black individuals or Black companies who have the money and keeping it within our race. White people do it all the time, so why can't we? And the fact that there are famous Black people who have the money, they're starting to do it now. You got the younger generations doing things to build up their communities and stuff. It should have always been like that. I don't know all the ins and outs of what it is that they're doing, but I just see sometimes that if there is a strategy, you shouldn't have been selling to a white company. You should have been really pushing to sell it to a Black-owned business who had the funding initially to take over the idea and keep that idea within the Black community.
There's a lot that you said. I want to address that, but because it's a lot of multi-layers. I'm gonna keep saying it's not an idea, it's a business, because I hear what you're saying. You had the idea, you brought it to fruition, but you're not selling the idea, you're selling the business because the business made money. We all have ideas, but if we don't do anything with them, they ain't nothing but ideas. So I just want to, in the right context, that's number one. Number two, to answer your question, Jay, can you just repeat the question? Because I want to address a couple of things that Joe said, but I want to answer your question first.
Does wider acceptance validating, or does it sometimes feel complicated? Sorry.
So I think as a collective, unfortunately, I think we have all been conditioned that white is right. And if we get on the white side, oh, we made it. And unfortunately, that is a mindset that a lot of us, I don't like to generalize, but too many of us have. When, to Joe's point, it should not be that way. But I don't believe it should. We should not be seeking any white validation. But unfortunately, we're still, as a collective, we are conditioned to think that way. So that's the answer to that question. Going back to what Joe said, I agree with a lot. I agree with the theory and the sentiment that you have. However, there's an element of reality here. And there's also a lot of assumptions on your part. You're assuming that there's a Black organization that A, has the capital and wants to buy that business. There's no obligation to, right? I also agree that there are some sellouts, for sure. I'm not debating that. But I also want to make sure that we don't lean on the fact that if we lean too much on that argument, we erase the fact that there are everything that we just talked about earlier. There are prominent entrepreneurs that have an exit strategy that are doing nothing different than a white person doing the same thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there's too many of us that say you're sellout. And sometimes it's not a sellout, like the Shea Moisture guy, which, by the way, I do have his name. So he needs to get that recognition, right? So I don't want to butcher his name, but it's cool. I think it's Rich Eliu Dennis. So it's Rich Eliu Dennis. That is his name. He was the co-founder of Shea Moisture through Sundial Brands. And after selling the company to Unilever, white organization, in 2017, he reinvested heavily back into Black entrepreneurs, especially Black women. And he started the New Voices Fund. And that's how I found out. I had read about it probably about 2017. I just couldn't remember his name. But my point is, there's many more Rich Elius, and forgive me, Rich, if I mess up your name, Mr. Dennis. There's many more of those, but they don't get the recognition. Because there's more people like yourself that'll say they're a sellout. In fact, there are people that called him a sellout. Yeah. I remember. So I just want to say this. I think we need to make sure, yes, there are absolutely sellouts, but we also have to understand and educate ourselves to know that there are other people that do sell. Now, to your point, yes, we should. Who's to say he didn't try to sell Shea Moisture to a Black company? Who's to say he did? We don't know. But
no, I'm quite sure he probably did.
They didn't
want to buy it. I get it.
No. That's not, you don't like to speak in generalizations. And you say things, I'm quite sure. You don't know. We weren't at the table. Yeah. We don't know. So I will never make a statement saying, I'm quite sure he did. I don't know. But I also will say, even if he did, we cannot assume that someone will say, I want to be in that business. We're not obligated. I agree with you that we need to circulate the Black dollar more. Absolutely. But I also agree with doing that. And again, there's more than one ways to skin a cat. I'm sorry for you people that are animal lovers. I'm an animal lover too. It's just the saying, people. There's more than one ways to slice the bologna. There's more than one ways to do things.
What if they don't like
bologna? Was an animal too.
There's more than one ways to do things. Like, two things can be true. We live in a world, especially with social media, it's either this or that, and I hate that, right? Yeah. So to your point, in us trying to circulate the Black dollar, I find no problem with someone like Rich Eliu to sell a company, get the money, even if it's a white organization. And what is he doing? Doing exactly what you said, circulating that Black dollar by opening up that incubator, that fund, so that other Black women, because he's targeting women, can build up their things. That's how we build those companies. We need more of those. That's how we get the economic increases so we can develop these larger organizations, so we can have an organization that says, when they go to you, I'll buy that. Yeah. And the whole thing, Target came into place, and people like, oh, Target, right? Which Target for sure. One of the things I read in the comments, as you stay in the comments, was, why don't we have our own Target? Why don't we have our own? Again, no, we don't, right? And if we do, guys in the audience, let us know. Maybe there's a similar thing. And what I mean by a Target, something just as global as they are maybe there's something that exists or is nearing that in the community that is Black owned. I just don't know about it, right? However, if we don't have these plays like this, we'll never get there. So we need to, I don't want to say never. It'll be harder because hell, we ain't get there yet, right? So we need different ways to get the capital, and that could be selling to whomever, so that we can then circulate those dollars. And I applaud him, even though didn't get a lot of recognition. I remember they were tearing his ass up, right? He's a sellout. He's a this, he's a that. There's another woman that she sold her company. It's failing me right now. She's a sellout. Meanwhile, maybe she's not. I think it was the main.
It was, I forget which one it was.
I forget her name. But my point is she went back and maybe she couldn't do it on a grand scale as Rich did. But what she is doing is teaching other entrepreneurs, whether they want to sell a freaking barrette. So I don't care. Hey, here's how you could be successful. She's giving back in that way. So we just need to continue to do that so we can circulate those dollars. So we can have those somebodies that we can sell to so that we don't have to always result to selling outside of our race, if that's the case.
And I'm glad you called out all those things, Kira, because I was going to say the same thing. I was going to challenge Joe as well when she was saying that, because he may have very well, like you said, gone to, you have to put RFPs out. You got to put requests for proposals out. People got to want to buy your company, and you have to get the right deal, right? So if the right deal was not with a Black person or a Black company or a Black organization, and it was with the white company or organization, at the end of the day, he sold with an intention in mind to help more minorities. And that's the key point I think that's being missed. Even the people in the comments that's coming at him, you're not seeing the bigger picture here. So what? He sold over his own, but look what he's doing over here, which is the bigger picture, right? And for the people in the comment that says, why we don't have a Black target? Because you ain't create one, damn it. Go create one. Shit, if there ain't one out there. I'm just saying.
And another thing, too, because with those comments, sometimes they'll say, well, I ain't buying it anymore. And sometimes that could hurt, even after he sold it, because then that means that the next person that goes, is going to go down. And sometimes it could go either way. I think I'm going to say this to the cows come home, and even I still need to do some more education, and I will continue to do more education to learn about these stories and also the mechanics behind it. People need to do that. Learn a little bit more about what it takes to run these organizations and learn, and even the VC funding. Like I mentioned, founders, they build up the startups and then they exit. I still am a baby and the infancy stages of learning that stuff, getting series money and series A, B, whatever. But I know enough to know it's celebrated sometimes within the white, I exited 4 companies. That is celebrated. People don't even know, what are you talking about exit? They're like, what do you mean? It is actually on LinkedIn, you go right now and you go to founders, just search up founders. And then they'll say, I exited 5 companies. I exited 6 companies, multi-million. And these people and now because they did that, they got a lot of money. They become investors in other companies.
Right.
So these are things that we need to learn and educate ourselves a little bit more about so we can, not honk the horn of why you selling out so quickly, because sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it is. Let's be clear. We have a lot of Uncle Toms in here sometimes, but
in many different ways, not just from the financial aspect.
Uncle Ruckus from Boondocks, one of them too. All of them. But we have it. But I also think equally there's less of that and more of the people trying to do the right thing. I would like to believe that.
Yeah, I think if we heard more about it, we can believe it. And I think that's the problem too, is that we're not hearing enough about it. So you hear the story, you hear the naysayers, and all the naysayers are much louder than the actual intent because it's not talked about enough.
No, always the lies are always interesting. They're always more sellable. No, for real. And it's easier to spread as opposed to something that's good.
Right.
So I challenge the viewers, if y'all don't educate us, if you know about the startup world, but also go onto LinkedIn, search for founders in tech. Just search and then just go through their profile and you'll see that a lot of them, I founded 2 companies, I founded 3 and more important, I exited. And let me tell you another thing. There are other people that look for those people on LinkedIn. Ask me how I know, because I got paid to look for them myself, but as a contracting deal. But there are people that look for founders and people that exited companies and then want them to help invest in their.
Well done, yeah.
For the viewers, explain what founders and exit mean.
So for founder means that you developed a company. You created a company. So for example, put you on the spot, Jay. Lotus Embers. You founded that company, right? If you wanted to take it to VC, that would be you founded a startup company, right? Now you could take Lotus Embers to a VC. Let's say they invest, it could be 10,000, 5,000, whatever it is in your company. You grow it to a certain amount of money, and then you decide, now it's time, I want to exit. I want to, sell it. You take your proceeds. Maybe you sold it for 300,000, 400, whatever it is. Usually it's multi-million, but sometimes it is. And then you take your proceeds and you go on about your merry way. So basically it's starting a company and exiting a company, not just making it defunct, meaning that it went out of business because you can't sell, but it's successfully starting and basically selling your company. So that
possibly finding another one, and just the cycle repeats or whatever.
And another thing too, which I'm doing, and I want you all to do some research on this too, because I've been starting to do if you feel inclined, because of the world that we live in right now with having jobs and or not, because the economy still sucks for a lot of people that are out of work. I read something the other day that said that where people will make their millions is in investing in other companies. There have been people that do the research yourself that have, back in the day with Uber, here's $5,000. Here's $10,000, and they walked away with millions of dollars.
They call them angel investors. I heard that terminology, angel investors.
Right?
Yeah.
Look at Nas. He invested in Coinbase. Right? Yeah. He invested in, and that's just one piece. He invested in a lot of different
others.
The point is, you don't have to be that. If you had 5,000, they make it hard for us to learn how to do it, right? And then it's a risk because you could also invest that money and the company don't do shit and then you're out of 5,000. But there's people that have put in $10,000, right? Hell,
investing in a stock, it's a risk, right? Everything is a risk.
It's a risk. It's a give and take. Even I just read the other day, what was it? Beyonce did a deal. I forget the company. But basically, it wasn't Uber. It might have been, it's a company it's not DoorDash, but it's one of those type of gig economy companies. And they said, how do you want to get paid? What do you think she said?
Stock, shares, something like that?
Equity. Money? Nah, give me the equity because you're going to make more money that way. So we have to learn how to, again, I bring this up, we have to learn how to figure out how to get the bags and then take that and then circulate it amongst the Black community and the extent to which we want to share those stories. Because a lot of times we have a lot of the stuff I hear all the time. What does Jay-Z? What does Beyonce do? What is that? They do, when the stories get leaked, they do a lot for other people. But sometimes there's a lot of Black people that are behind the scenes doing things, but we're not talking about enough. So it leads us to assume a million things. And I'm going to shut up.
But then you hear on the flip side of that, when Tyler Perry talks about all the things that he do, if you got to tell everybody what you're doing and what you're really doing it for, you can't win.
There's power in hearing those stories. Okay, to some, it's a feel-good story. Then there's the others like myself that get inspired and then want to know the mechanic. How did you do that? Because I'm trying to figure out how I can scale and do things so that it affects our community in a better way. And then there's people that will be he did that. So you get all parts of the spectrum. Anyway, all right. I think we probably are time for another segment.
Welcome to Auntie's Court. Court is now in session.
All right. Bang, bang. Court is now in session. Aunties to preside in today's case in the matter of body versus getting a bag. The claim that being in shape as a Black woman is the most financially sound decision you can make, not just for your health, but for your income. Let's run the clip.
You may not want to hear this, so I'm going to hold your hand when I say it. Being and staying in shape as a woman, in particular, a Black woman, is the most sound financial decision you could ever make. Outside of all of the health benefits that we know living an active and healthy lifestyle is going to give us, a Black woman who is in shape and takes care of herself will instantly receive credibility, respect, and more often than not, especially in corporate America, $9,000 more in her annual salary. And that's just at 13 pounds overweight. And for those overweight, more than 13 pounds, it has been shown that you will earn $19,000 less in your annual salary than those slimmer counterparts of yours. So I say this to say, Miss Ma'am, you may not like it, but you need to get that ass in the gym. And if not for your health, definitely for your bag.
The video argues that outside of the obvious health benefits, staying in shape directly impacts your earning power. It claims you are taken more seriously. You're perceived as more disciplined. Fit Black women earn more than their overweight counterparts. And if you're overweight, statistically, it's saying you'll earn less. So the advice given is get in the gym for your health and for your bag, prosecution, and defense. What say you?
Joe, are you arguing? Which side are you arguing, Joe?
You pick your side.
I'm going to be a prosecutor. So listen, concern without consent is criticism. Body commentary is deeply personal. Weight does not equal discipline or worth. Unsolicited advice cross boundaries. Respect includes emotional awareness. Health conversations require invitation. Accountability is not the same as policing someone's body. So she didn't motivate, she judged.
Defense is she had some good points, but I really don't think that it dictates how much a Black woman makes. Because regardless of weight or not, we still get paid less than our counterparts. I really don't think the weight has anything to do with it.
Well, the argument, just for me to weigh in here, the argument was that we're not talking about the compensation against our counterparts. We're talking about as a Black woman. What she's saying is, as an overweight Black woman, you're going to get paid less than as a skinnier Black woman, not the counterparts. So just want to clarify that.
I didn't. The counterparts, I assume, was anybody else.
No. She's talking. The whole premise behind this is that get into shape so you can get your bag. And then she went on to say that fit Black women earn more than their counterparts, meaning overweight Black women, right?
Oh, I didn't take it that way. I thought she was saying in general.
She's talking about basically
counterpart
skinny.
And I'm saying at this point that even if it's not the other races or not, I don't think that has anything to do with how much we get paid, because we get paid less regardless. Even if we have all the degrees and everything else and we're overly qualified for the position, you would really have to go in there and demand how much you should get, but it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters how much weight you have.
I will argue if a woman certain weight was required to do a certain role or a certain activity and they couldn't because of their weight, they're not going to get that job. So therefore, it impacts their salary. They're going to have to take up lower wage paying job because they cannot perform the job.
But then we would have to talk about what job are we talking about. Our weight has nothing to do. We're talking from a corporate or nonprofit world where you're sitting in an office all day. It doesn't matter how much we weigh. Now, if we're talking about other professions, it depends on the profession.
People have had heart attacks at their desk because they are healthy. And if the companies are paying for your bits, they expect you to take care of yourself. And if you're not doing such things, it impacts the company. So that's my case.
I do want to weigh in here a little bit. Conventional pretty privilege is a thing. Did we all agree with that? And with that comes a certain aesthetic. And we could all speak from our own experiences or not. But I've seen it. For example, I'm going to give an example. In corporate America, you'll be far pressed in the 90s, particularly tech sales or consultative sales. You'll be far be someone that isn't considered pretty as a woman, whether she's white. In sales, you had to look a certain way.
See, it all depends on the profession.
Forget
or
that.
On the career.
But argument. You had to look a certain way or you ain't getting hired. Now, I'll even take it another step. There were less Black women in sales because you had to be blonde, blue-eyed, and at least a size 00 with big tits. It worked.
$00.
It worked, though. I've seen it. I've witnessed it.
Right? Because of the
clientele. Pretty privilege. We're not going to pretend it doesn't exist because it does. And part of that is a certain aesthetic. But fat phobia is also real. So I'm on both, is it, and here's the thing, with pretty privilege, is it unfair? Absolutely. 100% unfair. Is it real? Yes. And here's another thing, capitalism, they don't give a fuck about your feelings. They only reward optics when it comes to stuff like that.
And people work hard to present themselves in such ways that they know it's going to get them from point A to point B.
That's a fact. Anti-Black bias, is that real? Absolutely, it's real. But Eurocentric beauty standards, being slim, that's also real. So it's interesting because we're in this clip, she's saying, shrink yourself, literally, to earn more. I think, to your point, and I think you mentioned this slightly earlier, but Black bodies have been scrutinized, they've been sexualized, they've been policed for so long. So now here, what she's doing, she's adding that, optimize your body for income. What she's saying, the truth of the matter is, what she's saying ain't nothing new.
And I'm going to say it's not a lie. It's
not a lie.
Yeah.
It ain't new. And I do believe that I can only go by my experience. That is absolutely true. If you look a certain way, and if we just want to talk about corporate America, I've seen it where forget sales, in general, getting hired.
A lot of fields. I think it's in a lot of fields, right? And I do want to call out, I do want to make it clear that we're not making fun of this and we're not saying that it's right what she said, right or wrong what she said. What she's saying is not a lie. We've heard it before. We've seen it. We've experienced it. So it's not something that's made up. We all have our own different views here. So we're not fat shaming anybody. We're not trying to make anybody feel bad or less than. People have their own walks of life. So we just want to make that clear. But it's a topic. It happens. And we're just here having a conversation.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, I guess the defining question I have is, do you think discipline and fitness translate into discipline in other areas?
Absolutely.
It does, yes.
So that begs the question, what's the real message here? Is it that A, health improves confidence and performance, or your body determines your worth and earning power?
I'm a former for my personal, but the latter for the outside world.
I can see that. All right.
Society says so for the latter.
I agree with that. And I think that, don't want to harp too much on that. So let's get to the ruling, the verdict. So is the person in this clip, is she guilty for harmful framing? Is she not guilty because she's giving practical advice? Or is it a gray area? Is truth wrapped in problematic packaging?
It's a gray area.
I would say it's a gray area because I wonder if she had something before and after that. I wonder if she teed up the conversation or she just came in, bam, right? So
yes, just her, and that's it.
So I'll go with the gray area.
Same here.
So I don't know. For me, I'm going to say she ain't guilty. And I guess this is my personality. It's practical advice to me. Some may think it's problematic packaging for all the reasons you mentioned. For me, because of my personality, and I like people to be direct, and I can take it. Everybody can't take it, right? I see exactly, damn it, get your ass in the gym. If not for money.
For your health.
So for me, she ain't guilty. I just think people don't want to hear that. And then the argument is, what about Oprah? Because she's been every size to the cows come home and she's a billionaire, right? So it does, to your point. Well, actually, none of you motherfuckers made a point.
Damn.
But there are Black women that have been overweight that have been successful. Absolutely. By and large, I think that...
But you see it less. So that's the reality.
You see it less. And I do think, I don't care what kind of role you have, I think it personally does impact your bag. Now, in terms of what she mentioned with the actual 13,000 or whatever she said, I don't know. I don't have the statistics on that. Right. So I don't know where she didn't cite the stats in terms of the sources, and got it. But I would say that there could be some element of truth to that.
I don't deny, even though you're going through the cases, prosecutors and defense making statements about the case, I stand true on I know people are not being hired or will not be hired for certain jobs and responsibilities because they don't feel like they're capable of completing the task because of their weight. People have passed on the job because of health reasons. And it's because they're not taking care of themselves. So I'm not going to say that that's not true. All those things are true.
I also think too, and again, I think society as a whole, they're not kind to people that are fat.
No,
they're just not. And I think I was reading in the comments that one person said, who was arguing that she was agreeing with this woman, she said, I went from 300 pounds to 150 pounds. And she says, I don't give a damn, because people were arguing against the girl. They were saying that this woman was guilty, basically, the person who made the clip. And this woman said, I went from 300 pounds to 150 pounds. And she said, I don't give a damn what none of you people say. I'm treated differently. I'm in a good way at 150 versus 300. My confidence is up. Because my confidence is up, I'm showing up different. So I hear both sides of the spectrum. I don't like fat shaming or anything like that. But I also understand, and this is why I say she's not guilty, because I could get it directly straight. It's practical advice. And confidence does impact your presence. But I also equally feel that no Black woman should have to shrink herself to feel valued. So in closing out, your growth is so valid. Your journey is absolutely yours. And it's never too late to choose yourself. If this conversation made you think, made you get angry, made you say, hey, that's me, or even made you laugh, do us a favor, subscribe, share with somebody, tell a friend to tap in. In addition, if you have some views on this topic that you want to weigh in on, tap into our community, follow us on all socials, and drop us a note at our email. It's NYAAPOD1, the number 1 at gmail.com. We love you for tuning in. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Who said?